Hey, Michelle, how are you doing?
Hey guys, I with KB and Hanato, so sorry about that if you were calling me earlier.
No problem at all. No problem at all. And KB and Hanato, are they part of your management team or trainers? Or since we're officially live, let us know as much as you want to with everyone watching.
Oh no, Karen Bryant. So
Awesome.
yeah, just doing an interview with them.
Excellent. And I know that she was doing a show with Alan. Oh yeah, my director, my producer asked me if you could hit the video button when you have a minute. That would be awesome. And forgive me for not even knowing, because Karen Bryan is KB. I don't know why. I'm getting old, Michelle. We were just talking about that. Sometimes it seems like stuff that I knew like a year ago, like that. I'm like, what is that, Dave? And I'm like, damn. I'm like, it starts to happen, I guess, a little bit. But yeah. And then I know she was doing a show with Alan Joban, but who's the Hanato that's involved with her, or is that a
Uh,
producer?
he's the Brazilian Carmel. He's like the comedian. He's super funny.
Yes, Renato Laranja, I think, right? Yes,
Yeah,
yes. That is awesome that he's still around, because I remember he started doing his thing like about 10 or 12 years ago, didn't he? That was like kind of right when you were getting, even before you got into the UFC, was when he jumped out, or was it around the same time?
yeah. He's hilarious, man, for sure. And it's funny because it's kind of like my master. Yeah. It's funny because so many Brazilians that you love and adore,
Yes.
and it's just funny because you can relate to everything that he says.
Yes, he is a character, and I remember early on he really was like getting people to believe it. Because I remember the one segment he did, I think, when Chris Weidman was a champion, and it looked like he was really like getting Chris mad. And then Chris stood up, and he's like twice the size of this guy, and then this guy submits Chris Weidman. Everyone's like, "What the hell did we just see?" And then all of a sudden it was like people are like, "Wait a second, this guy's beating the baddest men in the world," and it's like, "Yep," because it's a joke. But that was really cool that people were willing to go along with that. But yeah, he's a funny dude, and yeah, Karen's awesome. She's been doing this for such a long time, and she's really good at what she does, isn't she?
Yeah, I was just talking to them, and we're kind of reminiscing about me being behind the desk as an analyst and how much that actually helped me as a fighter. Just kind of come into my own and be comfortable with having an opinion, because I just think as an active fighter, when you're behind the desk, you can take quite a bit of heat for giving your opinion, even though it is just that, an opinion. But
Absolutely. You learn while you teach. You really do, don't you? And even if you're not essentially teaching, by commentating, it really does kind of give you an opportunity to kind of look from the outside that you don't normally get as a fighter, doesn't it?
yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes too, you get to kind of connect the dots. There are always going to be like these underlying themes that happen within the evolution of MMA. And sometimes when you're only focused on your division, those things are things that you can miss. But when you're studying a whole fight card, a whole roster of fighters, and you start to see these patterns emerge, um, it can really help the development of yourself as a fighter.
Absolutely. Going to something slightly unrelated, I want to ask a quick question before I forget. Sometimes I have a ton of people, especially with a really popular guest like yourself, that want me to ask questions, and we can't ask all of them because I have a lot of stuff I want to talk to you about. But a guy that I've known his family for a long time, and I think he and his brother are both black belts, and in traditional karate, but they also have always been excited about mixed martial arts. So he asked this question, and I'm going to tell you what my answer was, and then let's hear your answer, and let's see if I was maybe right, or if not, I'm okay being wrong. Happens a lot. Okay, he said, I wonder if Michelle Waterson would be excited if they brought in an atomweight division into the UFC right now. And I said to him, I said, I bet she would have 5 years ago, but maybe not as much now. Tell me what the real answer is.
I think the real answer is I think it would be great for the UFC if you give, if you build it, they will come, like they say, right?
Yes. Yep. Field of
Um,
Dreams.
what's amazing is that there are girls out there that are amazing fighters at 105 that haven't been able to really been seen because there is no some of the platforms are smaller, that they fight at. So absolutely, there is a place for them in the UFC. As far as for myself, going back down to atom weight, if I were to do it, it would definitely have to be worth my while. Moving up to straw weight, coming into the UFC, I just remember telling myself when I was still in atom weight, like, look, Michelle, if you're gonna go into the UFC and fight these girls at 115 and try to be the champ, like, that's it. You're a strawweight. There's no excuses. You can't say, oh, well, she was bigger than me, blah 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 blah. I used to fight at atom weight, blah 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 blah. No, you decided to move to the UFC to fight at strawweight, to fight the best girls at strawweight. So you're a strawweight. And when I made that decision, I really put in a lot of effort into putting a lot of muscle on and making sure that I could hang with these girls. And I think I've fared really well. I fought almost, all the girls in the top of the division since I've been in the UFC, and I'm still here in the top 10. So I think I'm doing something right.
Absolutely. And I had that feeling too. You definitely look stronger and like you've got some more muscle than you did 5 years ago, or especially like 8 or 10 years ago. And so I think I was right in that situation. I guess, although the answer is you could make it, but yeah, it would have to be worth your while. And that makes sense. And
Yeah, like,
yeah.
if they were to do a tough show and the coaches were going to fight for the belt after the tough show, and I could coach the 105 division with a new roster, I think that would be amazing, and that would definitely be incentive enough for me to buckle down and get my butt back into atom weight. Dude, I would have to cut so much muscle if I
Yeah.
cut back down to
Yeah. And that's not something that anyone really wants to do that often, and I guess it's not talked about much. But I guess coming from like an exercise and bodybuilding martial arts background that I have, it would pretty much essentially be like way upping your cardio, lowering your weights, lowering your protein and calories, right? And you'd essentially be, yeah, burning muscle, which you can do. And I guess it wouldn't be necessarily unhealthy, but people hate to do that, don't they?
Well, it just takes forever to put muscle on, like
Right.
good, strong muscle. It takes forever. Well, and maybe it's just in my case, but it really is. Um, it takes a lot of effort to put good muscle on, and so I'd hate for all that to go to waste.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So let me get your opinion. Recently, there have been a lot of retirements after fights in the UFC. I think more in the summer of 2022 than I've probably ever seen. It seems literally almost every other Saturday, someone's putting their gloves on the cage floor. I think the first recently was Felice Herrig, who I know you were in Fight Girls with. Remember, I watched that live when it was on, right? And then you had Joanna Jędrzejczyk, another opponent of yours, as Felice was. And then you had Cowboy, who trained over at Jackson Wink for a long. So it's funny, all three of those retirements have some relationship to you, Michelle Waterson. That's interesting. So can I get your thoughts on those three retirements and those three people? And if you feel it made sense, it was the right decision, and maybe some positive thought of each of those people that you have.
I never really put it together that way.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, it is really interesting that I am tied to all of those people. You're right. I was on the Fight Girl show with Felice. Both of us, I would proudly say that the two of us are some pioneers for the female division.
Yeah, hell yeah.
For females in MMA, in martial arts, really. And I wish her the best of luck, and I do understand that it is a tough road. And sometimes you have to know when to bow out, and for her, I wish her the best of luck. And it really is, I think, something that all fighters grapple with. When is the right time to leave, and what is the next chapter of my life gonna look like? So for Felice, I wish her the best. I know that she suffered a string of injuries, and that was really frustrating for her. But she's an amazing athlete, and she's always really taking care of her body. And I know that whatever she decides to do, um, she'll be good at. With Joanna, I wasn't surprised. She's been living her life and loving it, and really thriving in other aspects of her life, and in her other career choices. She's, like she said, she wants to be a mom and she wants to be a businesswoman. And I think that's a hard choice as a female fighter, is like, especially if you don't have any children, is like, when can I start my family?
Yeah.
And the time doesn't, you don't get any younger.
Right.
And it is a tough decision to make. And for her to bow out and step away, I think she did it in such a graceful way that you can't be upset with that. And she's done so much for the sport and for females in the MMA arena, that she can walk away with her head held high. She's the longest reigning strawweight champion. She was a killer when she needed to be a killer.
Absolutely.
And I think she's just really fallen in love with the next chapter of her life. And I'm really excited to see what she does, because you can see how excited she is, through her social media posts, and just how driven of a person she is, even outside of fighting. So I look forward to seeing her career
Absolutely.
outside of fighting.
Definitely.
And then with Donald, he's the one that got me into fighting. I remember I was a ring girl, watching him fight, and
Cowboy. Right.
yeah, talking to the promoter and asking the promoter if I could fight. And he I don't think he really took me seriously.
Right.
And it was Donald that was like, hey, if you're serious about fighting, get your ass in the gym. And he kind of took me under his wing. And it was Donald that gave me the kind of
belief.
Basically, I think I was a very tentative, cautious person before I met Donald. And Donald kind of just has like that free spirit where he's just like, why not? Just do it type of person. And just watching him just do it. I mean, I wouldn't say just do it. He has that F it personality.
Right.
So when he says F it, I'm like, all right, F it. So he gave me that. And it has been so cool to see that even though we're on two separate journeys, that we kind of were able to ride this wave, and I wish him nothing but the best. And I do think it was weird to see him bow out like that, but for sure, I think that, he hit it on the nail. Like, you shouldn't be doing this stuff if you're not completely in love with it, because it can be dangerous.
Yes. Very true. I remember, and not to jump off from Cowboy, and that is such a cool story. I think most of us didn't know that Donald Cowboy Cerrone was a huge part in giving you the confidence to have a career in MMA, and that's so awesome. I'm going to come back to that, but touching on what you just said about what he said, that if your heart isn't into it. I remember Mike Tyson way back, and I was really young, so let's just say I'm not old as a fossil now, but I was young enough. I was watching boxing, and I remember when Mike Tyson retired, he started to lose. And then I remember one of the statements he made when he retired was, he said, I just don't have the heart for this anymore. Like, he didn't have a desire to hit anyone. He didn't feel like finishing anyone. And that comes from a guy who early in his career, he put out the quote that said, I want to hit someone so hard that I knock their nose bone back through their brain. You know, that was, yeah. You were probably not born yet, I think, when he said that, but he literally said that. They said, Mike, you're out there with such ferocity. Like, what's in your mind? And he said, I just want to knock someone's nose bone right through their brain. You know, he was into it that much. He was like, he wanted to succeed. He wanted to destroy, you know, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, 15 years later, I don't have the heart for this. And you know, and it makes sense. And then it's because if you're seeing that in the fighting business, then you got to get out. It's funny. That reminds me of a hilarious story. I'll tell you really quick, really briefly. I think when I was in my late 20s, a buddy of mine and I were big combat sports fans. And he was an apartment manager, and he had a big, strong guy in his late 20s, really fit, great genetics, come in to his apartment. And he started talking fights, and the guy was, you know, saying, yeah, I like fights. And he said, how about you could be a fighter? You look like a fighter. And the guy said, well, you know, I guess I could. I played some football, and you know, I kind of could throw some hands. And he said, okay, look. And he said, me and my buddy across the street, Colin, we're going to be your managers, and you're going to be a fighter. And the guy was like, oh, cool, awesome. And here we were, like, guys in our 20s, and I was like, what do I know about fight managing? And my buddy said, well, you're a big fight fan, aren't you? You could be a manager. And I was like, I guess, I mean, I'll try. So we got this guy a gym membership, and he was showing up a little bit, but then he started not showing up, and he was trying to also be like a model and a comedian as well. And then one day, instead of showing up for boxing training, my buddy went out to a club, and he was on stage doing comedy with a 40 in his hand that he was drinking out of. And my buddy said, weren't you supposed to be down in the gym? Right? And he said, yeah, man, I'll be in the gym, but I also want to be a model, an actor, and a comedian. And we said, you know, we got together and we said, look, man, if you're thinking you're going to be a heavyweight boxer or an MMA, and you're going to try to also be a comedian and a actor and this, you're going to just get your brains knocked out. You know, I said, we may not know anything about being a fight manager or even a fight trainer, but yeah, it's not a career to not be serious about and to think that you're just going to kind of go in half-assed, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, you know, anytime a person gets injured or hurt, I think a lot of it has to do with not being able to focus, not being able to get in that zone. You're not, you know, being halfway in and halfway out. It's very dangerous, and I think sometimes you can forget that because you know, people tune in to watch it on, you know, ABC, like we will be doing this weekend. But it is a very dangerous sport with very dangerous consequences, and you know, if you don't have the heart to stomach that, then you know, it shows in your performance, and it's just one of those things, you know. You can only ride the tires for so long.
Exactly. And he rode him, and he had an amazing career. He was such a great fighter. He would show up against anyone, anytime, different weight classes, and absolutely a stud. And then he said he's going to become a movie star, and I hope he will, because that would be a great transition for him. The guy has so much personality and such a character. I mean, I also think you could be in the movies as well. You know, you have that personality. You're better looking than Donald Cerrone for sure, but he's not a good looking guy. But comparing a beautiful woman to Donald Cerrone is a huge difference, you know. But I hope he does it. I think he was recently in a movie, another tie-in to you, Michelle Waterson. He was recently in a movie with Gina Carano, who was the coach at Fight Girls. Have you had any contact with her since 15 years ago, or what's your thoughts about Gina Carano?
I love Gina. She's the sweetest person. She really is. And it's so funny. Most fighters are the sweetest people, and it's
Definitely.
because they fight.
Yep.
You know, they fighting humbles you because there's always somebody bigger and badder than you.
Right.
And I love that, you know, the two of them connected and was able to do the movie. I actually just watched the movie the other day, and it was great. And I look forward to both of their careers, and I support both of their careers. And I think the reason why fighters are you know, fighters are drawn to movies is because when you fight, you are, even though it's mixed martial arts and people think that it's like this very barbaric thing, to me it's art. to me, it's, the canvas is the octagon. Our medium of choice
Hmm.
are our weapons, our limbs, our hands, and within that 15 to 25 window, we're creating art. And just kind of mirroring that to movies. Movies are art. Movies inspire. Movies can change somebody's life because of the story that you tell. And I
Absolutely.
think that's the connection that the fighters have with doing movies.
I would agree. I would agree. Absolutely. And then you guys also have the experience of being on the stage, being in front of so many people, and having to perform and having to pull that intensity out of you. And so, yeah, I think a lot of you are naturals. Not everyone, but I think that, a lot of good actors can come from being in the position of being a high level fighter. A funny thing, I was remembering the last Gina fight against Chris Cyborg, and I was watching with several friends, and I had a buddy of mine who was Italian American, as was his girlfriend. And we actually watched, they showed the weigh-ins, I think, which were the day before, real quickly before the fight. And a friend of mine's girlfriend, she's Italian American like Gina, she said, I know why she's laughing, because Gina was kind of laughing when she was weighing in and she was all shredded. And I said, why? And she said, because she knows she's never going to be in this shape for the rest of her life. Right. And I said, I don't know. I said, I guess that could be, but yeah, because she's a tall girl, like 5'8.5", and she's kind of thick, and she was just shredded. I got a lot of friends that are Italian, and not always the most skinny people with, but definitely, yeah. So I have a feeling that may have been the last time that Gina was able to see all 6 abs on her body. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. She's not fat, but she was. You do get to be in your best shape when you're about to have a professional MMA fight, don't you?
Right, absolutely. I was just listening to her podcast with Joe Rogan, and it's funny because she was saying like that's what would get her motivated to get into shape was fighting, and she was talking about even entertaining the idea that maybe she would come back to fight Ronda just to motivate her to get back into shape.
Right, right. Because I remember her story from, I think, Fight Girls, where she said that it was the guy that your coach from that Fight Girls, Master Toddy, when she met him through her boyfriend, who I think was also an MMA fighter. You probably remember that story. And she said she went in there because he wanted to fight, and she was just in there to work out. And she asked him about fighting, and he said, "Oh, girl, you're fat." And she said, right? And she said a little Thai man just called her fat, and she said she couldn't, have that tag stay on her, and that kind of really motivated her to get in shape. Remember that story?
Yeah, Thai people have no filter, and it's from a place of love. But I mean, that might be why I'm also okay with negative criticism, because that's what I grew up with as having a Thai mom. It was it was always something that I was doing wrong.
Right, right. And I know you love your mom. I remember you always have done good impressions of your mom. Does that continue, or have you stopped that?
Oh yeah, we got Master Yaya in the house. She's always there, and I have all these stories, and
Nice.
yeah, and it's funny because when people like hear it, they laugh and they think it's funny, but then they meet her and they're like, "Oh my gosh,
It's dead on, right?
you were spot on."
I remember one time she was mad because you got your ass kicked, and she, instead of her feeling sorry for you, she's like mad at you. What did you do? You get your ass kicked. But hey, I mean,
Yes,
right?
yeah, it's so fun. I was trying to explain to her mom, like, fighting is hard. I know people from the outside, when they look, they're like, "Oh," and she's like, "Why don't you just move your head, okay? Why don't you just be smart? Don't get hit and attack and hit them."
I love
I'm
it.
like, well, if it was that easy.
Right, exactly. If it was just that simple to do, then everyone would be the world champion. And yeah, it's not.
Right.
It's easier said than done. That is for sure. Let me ask you, you have a daughter. I would guess, I'm usually really good with numbers. Let's see how good I do. Based on how many years you've shown your daughter, she's probably got to be like, what, 6? Am I close?
She's 11.
Oh my God, you're kidding me. Has time flown? Lord, I wasn't even close. So, wow, because I remember you started kind of videoing her when she was like 1 or something, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been fighting professionally for 15 years. 16.
That's right. And so, what are her thoughts now? Any thoughts on fighting, or one even more importantly, is she serious about physical fitness and kind of connected to that? Are you one that really wants to insist that get in really great shape, or does she want to, or what does she want to do, and how much do you feel like you want to get involved to kind of nudge her to really take fitness and martial arts seriously?
Well, I think it's important as a parent to teach your children about being physically fit, because it goes hand in hand with being emotionally fit, and also like nutritionally. Like, I think it's important to teach them how to be healthy as well, and all of those things go hand in hand. If you know, if you aren't physically fit, then your brain is foggy, you're not able to function, you have no motivation. The best way to teach anybody to be to have any type of um, mental endurance or grit, is what some people might call it, in my opinion, is through physical pain.
Yeah, right.
And you know, with everything being so easily accessible, and with the children having technology, and my daughter being an only child, um, life can tend to be really easy. And so I think through sports, that is how she would learn how to deal with adversity. She's not interested in fighting. Been she's been a gym baby since before she was born.
Right.
She was in my belly, at the gym.
Yep.
And so she knows everything. She could definitely be an analyst if she ever wanted to, because she knows everything about fighting, but she's not interested in fighting. It's just not something that piques her interest, and I'm not gonna force her to do it, because it's dangerous if you try to force them to do something that they're not passionate about.
Absolutely. Is she?
But
Go ahead.
she does do jujitsu. We just opened up a jujitsu school with my professor, and she has been going, and she really does enjoy it. And
Awesome.
I think jujitsu is such a gentle sport. It can be. Jujitsu is like water. It can be gentle, or it can crash.
Yes.
And so and you get to dictate the pace, and so she really enjoys that. And I think it can lend to understanding strategy. It can lend to teamwork, patience, humbling yourself, a lot of different things. But she's really passionate about gymnastics, and she's been doing that since she was 3, and is now competing. And watching her have to deal with the pressures of competition has been really hard for me, because I'm an athlete and
Right.
a competitor myself, and sometimes I just want to try to give her the answers, and just by me giving her the answers isn't going to um, let her get on the podium.
Right.
She has to discover all those things on her own.
Right.
She has to figure out what makes her tick, what gets her in the zone. What is going, if it's something that she's passionate enough to be competitive about. So all those things you learn through sport, which I think is very important.
Absolutely. And she's probably got some good genetics, and then with that work ethic that she's probably learned from you, is probably helping her a lot as well. And so yeah, I'm sure she's in a good position to do a lot of good things. And she probably gets a laugh if you've shown her the stuff of her on video from when she was 4 or 5, or maybe she can't stand it. I don't know which.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool. It's really cool to see her progression. And what excites me is to see how determined she is to get better, when she does fall. And I know it's hard as a parent to see your children fail, but I think you need to put things in front of them that are hard, because that's the only way that they will become stronger.
Absolutely. Very well stated. Well, we only got about 5 more minutes with you, Michelle. And so for that 5 minutes, want to talk about your big fight coming up, co-main event Amanda Lemos. It's going to be an amazingly good fight. I'm sure you're looking forward to it. It's funny. A friend of mine said, if life gives you lemon, make lemonade. So if life's giving you lemos, you got to make lemonade, right? That's Or you could say that in her last fight, Jessica Andrade really squeezed the lemos and definitely put some lemonade on the ring floor. But I think you're going to be looking more to bust up the lemos and make some lemon. I don't know. I'm just getting wacky here. All respect to Amanda Lemos. She is an amazing fighter. But this is an exciting fight. I'm sure you're looking forward to it. What kind of challenge do you think this presents to you, and what excites you about this match?
I think that she is a well-rounded fighter with heavy hands, and I think it lends to a very exciting fight. Both of us are really good stand-up fighters with good dexterity and on both stances. She likes to switch stances, and so I think it's going to lend to a high-paced 3-round match of kickboxing. And but the thing is, I do believe that my tools just outmatch her tools. So I'm really excited to put those tools out there for the world to see.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be an amazing fight. So many good fights on that card. If I could ask my producer to give me kind of a wider glance of the fight card above there, and then we'll see the entire fight card. And main event, Yair and Brian Ortega. How sick is that fight going to be, right? And here we go. Lauren Murphy and Miesha Tate. That is going to be very interesting. Now, let me ask you this. Most fighters don't mind giving me an opinion. One fighter once told me I don't really want to talk about anyone that I might see in the locker room or something like that. Although I have a feeling with you being an OG, respected, no one's going to try to go over and set you straight. Plus, I don't think you talk trash. But could I have your opinion maybe as a commentator, knowing these fighters well? Miesha Tate at her flyweight debut against Lauren Murphy. What do you think are some of the things we should look out for as fans in that fight, and how do you think that might unfold?
I think that's a great matchup stylistically. They both of the girls, they to me, what stands out with both of those girls is their heart, grit, and determination. So to me, I think that fight's gonna go the distance. I think Misha's wrestling might Misha's wrestling might outmatch Lauren's just slightly.
Makes sense. And the weight cut she should be able to do. I mean, it's so amazing after having kids like you. You have a child and you're amazingly shredded and in great shape. Going down in weight is a trip, though. But I guess Miesha can do it. You don't have too much fear or doubt.
Well, I don't know. This is the first time I'll see her going down to 125, but I think that when you birth children, all of our bodies react differently to it. I think, it was a benefit for Mackenzie Dern, when after she had her daughter, she became a lot more lean and more vascular.
Right.
And I not just like physically, but I just think that something switched in her head mentally after having her daughter that kind of kicked her into second gear. And who knows, maybe the same thing happened with Miesha as far as, getting a new sense of motivation and a sense of pride in your career and what you could possibly do as a mother.
Absolutely makes sense. And last question, the main event. Even as someone that's watched MMA from the beginning, even as someone that's trained jiu-jitsu as I have, purple belt, maybe I'll get brown if my body doesn't break down, although I haven't trained for a while, so I may never. But, and then I trained in stand-up karate for several years, never a pro, but always in small tournaments in the gym. But even with the knowledge that I have, I am stumped on this main event because, like, Yair is so unorthodox. He's such a great striker. I really believed he would do well against Max Holloway in that fight a year ago, even though he was like 5-1 dog. He did so well. He's such a beast. But Brian Ortega is so much more comfortable on the ground. You as a fighter who started out as a striker and became really comfortable on the ground, I think would be one of the people most qualified to give your thoughts here. Can you give us some insight that maybe we may not be seeing about what are a couple of the ways you think that fight could unfold and what we're looking at possibly as a result?
Well, I think both of the fighters are really amazing, and Yair had been a training partner of mine for a really long time.
Hmm.
Um, so I might be a little biased when I give this opinion,
Right.
but it's because I've trained with Yair and I haven't trained with Ortega, so it'll be just from the outside looking in. But Ortega is really slick on the ground, but the problem is that you start the fight standing. Um, and Yair's wrestling is phenomenal. He has a very unorthodox way about him. But what makes his wrestling so good is that he's really good at scrambles, and there's never a second that goes by that he doesn't allow you to sink in any shots or settle into any type of dominant position. So I just think that Yair is gonna have a lot more freedom to be creative with all of his tools.
Absolutely. I kind of think so too. And he's a slight dog, but I think this may be Yair's fight. It's going to be a hell of an amazing battle, that's for sure. Well, let us know, Michelle Waterson, if there's any merch you have or got a website going, anything you have going. Let us know where people can find you and support you.
Absolutely, I have merch. It's just really, really easy. MichelleWaterson.com. Head over there. We got some really cool shirts because I am a fight mom. We got some shirts that say "I love hot moms" because I'm the karate hottie.
Absolutely.
We have a shirt that says "Beautiful Violence" because that's what I think MMA is. It's beautiful violence. Some mom champ shirts. We got a lot of cool stuff over there. So if you want to support, show your love and support, go ahead and head over to MichelleWaterson.com. And I'm probably most active on Instagram, but I'm trying to figure out this whole TikTok thing. So I'm on TikTok as well. But yeah, just enjoying the ride, guys.